So in July, I really had a bad month. I read 3 books, but it's not because I've only read 3 books, but 3 books I wasn't a fan of. And then in August, I've read 7 books. I feel like I read some books I really enjoyed. We'll check because my memory is just not what it used to be. But yeah, let's just talk about my TBR, not my TBR, my wrap up for July and August, or my summer wrap up if you want. But yeah, wolves, let's do this. Hello wolves, what's up? I hope you're good. Today we're here for my wrap-up. I totally forgot about my July wrap-up. I was sure I did it, so maybe I filmed it but never like edited or whatever. Maybe I lost the footage, whatever. I'm gonna do it now, and yeah. Let me know what you've read recently that you really loved, or a book that really disappointed you. I would be curious to know. But yeah, down below, talk to me. Okay, so in July, I've read 3 books. Let's talk about the first book. So the book wasn't that bad or whatever. It was just not what I was expecting. So it was The Explorer by Catherine Rundle. So basically you have kids crashing from a plane like in the middle of the jungle, and I was expecting a book full of adventure, and it was more about survival than adventure. And also the pacing was a bit weird because I felt like the pacing of the story and the dialogues were not matching, which is super weird to say, but I love the writing style, I love the ideas. I had some Jumanji vibes coming from the story, but yeah, that's pretty much it. The thing that bothered me is that the fact that I was expecting adventure, but I got like survival kind of thing. I can totally understand, because being lost, especially as a kid in a jungle, it's not all butterflies and unicorns, you know, you need to survive, etc. So I feel like the atmosphere wasn't that tense, or let's say that it wasn't as dangerous as the very beginning of the book. From middle of it till the end, there was like no danger, which was super weird because you are in a jungle and you know danger is lurking at every corner kind of thing. And some of the twists happened a few times, like exactly the same thing, and then at the third time I was just like, just kid him, just be done with it, because that bothers me. But overall it wasn't that bad, just not what I was expecting. So yeah. And it was for the middle grade monthly book club by Jade and Gavin and Press. Then The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, or whatever the picture is here, I give it 2 stars. I don't think it was that bad. It was just useless. Hear me out. I feel like the first back of the book was really interesting. I was into it, I was intrigued, I wanted to know more, etc. The second half of the book I was like, okay, where is this going? And then the third part I was like, what the heck, why have I read that book? I lost hours of my time. As I was just trying to finish that book at that point, I didn't want it to DNF because Cindy invited me to the live. Thank you, Cindy, for inviting me to the live, even if I was a bit odd because I was like confused by the book. It's just that I rushed. Like, I wanted that book to be over, I wanted to finish it, so I didn't understand everything that was happening at the end, and to be fair, I just didn't care. I wasn't a fan of the Hunger Games to start with, so that book, while reading it, I wasn't thinking of the Hunger Games. I was trying to be like, okay, that's another book, that's a prequel, it has nothing to do with the Hunger Games. What I really loved about that book is that you see the beginning of the Hunger Games, you see how everything started, and I feel like it made sense, and it was intriguing, interesting, captivating, whatever the adjective you want to pick. The way it was done didn't work for me. I feel like that book would have been interesting if that book was divided in so many more parts, or if that book was beginning of another type of series. I needed more of that evolution of the Hunger Games. I wanted to know more about what was being added to every single edition of the Hunger Games. Snow was super smart, he had amazing ideas, so everything happened in 1 year. Like, it just didn't make sense. Like, change don't come that easily. It takes time to change things, and the fact that he was there and everything changed just didn't make any sense. So I was like mad, and I'm sorry, but he's a psychopath. I don't want a psychopath to be romanticized or whatever, and especially because he was using people. And I love that about villain, don't get me wrong, but the way the book was going wasn't, I don't know. I found that book useless. I'm sorry if you're a fan of it. I don't think it was that bad, but I don't see the point of this book. Okay, moving on because I don't want to rant. Then we have this one. I gave it 2 stars. So The Court of Miracles by Kester Grant. I'm still confused. I don't know everything that happened in that book because, again, I just couldn't care less about the characters and the plot. She has to save her sister from something, and there are different guilds, and it was a bit complicated. I feel like the pacing was super odd, so that's why I couldn't like keep up with the characters, especially because sometimes you would jump in time and like read about what was going on like 10 years after or whatever, and I feel like during those 10 years so many things happened and so many characters evolved and so many characters got closer to other characters, you know, relationships were built, etc., friendships or whatever, and we didn't have the details of those evolutions kind of thing, which absolutely bothered me a lot because I didn't understand things. Like I was like, they were enemies, and then I was reading in chapter after they were lovers, and I was like, what happened? And actually so many years happened in between, and also the main character had like 3 love interests. Hear me out, I would love for a book to have polyamorous relationships, but the way it was done and with the characters that they were picked just didn't work for me. The writing style was okay. I think it was like, and also something like, okay, first I have to finish my sentence before going to another idea. So the writing style was okay, the ideas were okay, but what bothered me is that it's not a retelling of Les Miserables. It's, for me, how can I say that? You know, when you have a retelling, you still have the main events that are similar to the original story. It wasn't done that way in that book because so many of the main things that happened in Les Miserables were twisted here, but not in a way it was similar, like it was completely different. So I feel like this book was inspired by Les Miserables because of some characters, because of the name, because of stuff happening, etc. But I don't feel like it was a retelling of Les Miserables. I was just expecting something else, and also I was like switching from the book to the audiobook, and I don't mind characters having an accent. Like I have an accent when I speak English, so when the character, like the narrator, was saying something in French with an accent, I didn't mind it, but the thing is that I couldn't understand it. Like I couldn't understand it. It wasn't said with an accent. I just couldn't understand it. That's maybe one of the reasons why I didn't like that book as much as I wanted to. I really wanted to love it, and I think that's actually the beginning of a series, I'm not sure, but yeah, and the cover is beautiful. I had a really beautiful like edition, but I feel that I might unhold this one because I don't think I will pick up the sequel if there is a sequel. So yeah, sad. Then let's move on to August. In August I've read 7 books, and I've read some good books. The first one is actually an arc I got on NetGalley, and this is A Ghost Tree by Christina Henry. If you know Christina Henry, she has a very twisted way of twisting tales, of retelling tales. She did like The Lost Boy, inspired by Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, etc. And this one is a gore kind of retelling more than horror. Like she usually writes horror, but this one I feel like it's more gore-ish. Basically what it has to do with, it's happening in a small town. Everything seems perfect in that little town, and every time when you say a little town sounds perfect, it rings a bell for me. Like it means that something is happening, there is a deep secret there, like Satanist or whatever. Never mind, that's my mind. But every year there is a girl who's gonna get killed, and people just tend to forget about that girl that disappeared last year, and there is a new one every single year. But some characters this time don't actually forget what happened, and that's the beginning of everything, like trying to discover what's going on in that town, what's wrong, who was responsible for it, etc, etc. I really loved it. I really did love the characters, I love the representation, I loved the writing style, I love the pacing, etc. The only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is because I knew from the very beginning kinda who was responsible for it, so I'm like but it didn't stop me from enjoying the book, so that's a really good point. So yeah, I would highly recommend that book. It's coming out super soon. Then I want to talk about a book I started in May and finally finished, and this is The Lost Magician by Pierre Storday. So if you're watching my vlog, you probably know that I ranted about that book a little bit because people were comparing it to Narnia, and you know, usually when people compare a book to another beloved book, it doesn't sit right with me because I tend to feel like disappointed about that book because I was expecting something as good as the original, let's say. But the thing is that I want to apologize, Wolves, because actually at the end of the book, when you read the acknowledgement, you see that the author is actually saying, this is my take on Narnia. And I was like, okay. I give it 3 stars. I feel I could even have 2 stars because of the enjoyment that wasn't there, but I give it 3 stars, right? So I would say that it is a retelling of Narnia. The main difference between the 2 books being that instead of going to Narnia through a wardrobe, they're going to another world through a library. So yeah, I'm not gonna say more because I don't want to rant about that book because it wasn't that bad, but it's just that it's so similar to Narnia, and I feel like I'm not ready to read a retelling of Narnia, a retelling of Aragon, a retelling of the Golden Compass, a retelling of Harry Potter, whatever. I'm not ready for those kind of books. So the fact that author actually said that it was his take on Narnia made me higher kind of thing the rating, because it's not the people saying that for you to pick it up, it's the author that actually reimagined Narnia. I'm a bit confused. I don't know if I will pick up the sequel actually, because there is a sequel. I just don't know, because I'm not ready for those kind of retellings, if you want me to be honest. So let me know if you read it and let me know how you feel about it, because I need to talk about it. And it took me so many months to finish it, so that's telling you something. Then I've read The Weight of the Soul by Elizabeth Tammy. I got that book so many months ago, I think almost a year ago on NetGalley, whatever. I just finished it. I really had a hard time connecting with the characters. Basically, it has a lot of Norse mythology and Viking vibes. It's in a village. The main character, she has a sister who's gonna die, but they don't understand how come she died, because she was healthy, she didn't have any wound or whatever. So she doesn't accept that her sister is dead. Like, she's not grieving, she's in denial. And I totally understand that everyone has a different way of grieving. I'm not questioning that. The way it was done didn't make sense to me. It's just that everything around it. So she's the daughter of the leader of the village, and for that she has to do what her parents want her and whatever. And then her mom and her dad want her to marry her dead sister's fiance, and I'm just like not here for that. That's the kind of thing, like arranged marriage, I'm just like, I cannot read about them, not because I cannot relate or whatever. It's just something that I hate so much, especially in this book, because in this book she could have said no, but she didn't say no, and then everything is happening. So that was like bothering me. I know it's happening all around the world, and I'm so sorry if you went through that, or if someone you know went through that, or anything. I'm really sorry for that. That's something I cannot read about. I hate it. It's like rape. I cannot read about rape. But yeah, that really bothered me. But overall, the writing style was okay. The take on the mythology, Norse, etc., it was interesting. I like that. I just couldn't deal with the arranged marriage. No. I had a weird time with the pacing as well. I feel like it was super fast and super slow and super fast, that there were no reason for it to be slow or fast or whatever. That's maybe because I wasn't invested in the story as much, or maybe because the main character for me wasn't likable, and I'm a character driven person. I need to love the character in order to fall in love with the story, and it wasn't the case this time. I really had a hard time connecting with the character and like them. I mean, all of them. I didn't care about them. That's maybe because of the arranged marriage, or because I find it so stupid when there is a trope or some, I don't know if it's a trope, when the character just could have said no to fix the situation and then don't. Like, that just doesn't make sense. I know that sometimes it's not possible, but in that book she could have said no. Like, but the very end I wasn't expecting. I didn't see it coming, and that's why I'm giving it 3 stars, because the writing style was good, the ideas were good. I was surprised. I just feel like it wasn't, like, maybe it should have been a 2 stars, but I gave it 3 stars, and Kopai said 3 stars, but it's a very low 3 stars. Yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting. The next one as well, like, it was the pick for the Howling pack, so Boneless Mercies by April Genevieve Ticholke. It wasn't what I was expecting either. I give it 3 stars because never anywhere in the book I was like, okay, I love what's happening, I'm intrigued or whatever. I was like intrigued, but I didn't care. I love the ideas of the book. Like I love the idea of the mercies, like going from one place to another in order to kill people, but they didn't do it for revenge, or they didn't do it because they wanted to. They were helping people dying in a better way because they were sick. So I love the take on that. But the thing is that the way it was told, narrated, didn't make much sense at the very beginning for me, because you had the main character who's like telling you what happened in the past, but it's from the first person's point of view. You know, like she says I and stuff like this, and every time something's gonna happen, she's not gonna only remember what happened, but she's gonna tell you what happened. Like even me as a person, when I see something that reminds me of something, I'm not like, oh okay, I remember when this happened and blah, blah, blah. You know, like it's like she was talking to someone in her head. She wasn't talking to someone. Like it was just weird. I was like bothered a bit by that. Like I feel like the third point of view would have been better, but also because they're dealing with death all the time, I felt like she was living in the past, present and future at the same time. So at that point it actually made some kind of sense to be like that, because what happened in the past is linked to what's going to happen in the future, and it has a link with what's happening right now. So the way she remembers things, and she needs like to explain everything that happened in the past, like it didn't happen to her, like she was saying it to someone, telling someone or whatever, made actually sense. But still, it bothered me. I'm like reading the review I left on Goodreads, and it says here, there are so many other things I would love to share here but can't because of spoilers, but I laughed so much in chapter 21. If you read this review and then start the book, please laugh with me. So yeah. I also really loved in that book that the women were actually respected. They had a role, they had like something to do and whatever, and it was not like men against like women kind of thing. Even if there was a group of people only dealing with men for some reasons, I feel like women have the same like power as men in the story in some way. So I like that. Also, the way it was described, I think the author that actually did an amazing job. It was vivid. I could picture things and imagine things. I got a few references in Norse mythology. I'm not sure I got every single reference. I'm not like an expert, but I really loved that as well. I also had some King of Arthur vibes. So if you read it, let me know if I'm the only one or not, because I really had that vibe. So yeah. And also I feel like so many warnings from this book: death, violence, suicide ideas, etc. So yeah. Then we have Mythopedia. Thank you NetGalley and the publisher for sending me an e-arc of that book. I give it 4 stars. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a middle grade Mythopedia, so with creatures from mythologies. I'm not sure why I'm explaining this, but whatever. So the book is split into different parts according to the continents you can find the beast on, the creature on, the mythology creature on, or whatever. So you have the Americas, you have Europe, etc, etc, and it's gorgeous. The illustrations are everything. I'm gonna buy that book. I want that book physically because it was super gorgeous. Each creator have like a double page, and on one side you have like illustrations, and on the other side you have illustrations and a description of the creature, where they're from, what happened, a bit of their history kind of thing. And then sometimes for some creature you have another double page with a story, a tale related to them. I loved everything about that book, but the illustrations are really, but like I was spending more time watching everything, like looking at every single picture, every single detail, than actually reading the book. I would definitely recommend that book, especially because I think that's the type of book you could read in between other books, like 1 or 2 creatures, and then you move on to a book, then you go back there and blah blah blah. So I really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend it, and it's coming out soon as well. Then I've read The Devouring Grey for the Sisterhood Book Club. I gave it 3 stars, and everyone's gonna be mad at me because everyone gave it 4 stars or 5 stars. I feel like so many things were well done in that book, like the grieving, the relationship between the parents and the kids, but all I could think about while reading that book was Riverdale with the magic. So I was laughing. it wasn't laughable. Like, there was nothing to laugh about in that book, but I could only picture Riverdale, you know, the kids going on some kind of like adventure, or, you know, dealing with stuff that happening in their village, town, or whatever, having the parents involved, whatever, plus magic. It was Riverdale plus magic. I love the representations though in that book. I loved the way it was written. It was very atmospheric. Some parts were super sad, some parts were better, etc. I just didn't care about the characters, and I just didn't connect. It's not a bad book at all. I give it 3 stars, and I feel like it deserves more, but the enjoyment rating dragged the book down because I just wasn't into it. I forgot most of it, so that's telling you how much I didn't connect to the characters, or didn't actually care, or didn't want to read more about them. I'm not sure I want to read a sequel. I think I want to read a sequel. I think I want to know more about it, especially because so many people loved it. But I feel it wasn't for me for some reason, and I feel bad for that because so many people actually loved it. It has a high rating, like I guess on 3.67 on Goodreads. Yeah, I enjoyed, like, as I said, like on the review, the spooky vibes, the family dynamic. Some of the characters were pretty unique, to be honest, and badass, which I loved that about them. I just had a hard time connecting with the characters and to really care about them, but I loved them, which was weird enough. Maybe because I listened to the other book when I should have read the physical book. So maybe. And sometimes it feels like it's really hard to read an audiobook because the narrator is doing most of the job and is the reason why you would enjoy maybe a book or not. I actually love the bisexuality representation that you had in the book. I feel like every single character was bisexual, and I love that some of the characters were disabled, and the representation felt like true in some way. Like, it didn't feel like it was focusing on that. It didn't feel like it was what defined them or whatever. It felt natural and really well done. So again, I'm not bisexual and I'm not like disabled, like physically disabled. So I cannot say if it was really well done or not. I just feel like it was well done. So yeah, please let me know if you read it, how you felt about that book. I feel like I've read a lot of ebooks and audiobooks, but yeah. So the last book I'm gonna talk about is The Zombies by Tracy Baptist. It is a book for the Middle Grade Monthly Book Club. Something that's really weird is that lately I've been enjoying listening to the book while reading the book. I put it on speed 2.0 or 2.5 or whatever, and I'm really enjoying that way of reading the book, which is something I used to hate, like absolutely hate. So I don't really understand it, but I don't care, I can read. Basically, it has to do with a little girl who lives with her dad near a forest, and apparently there are zombies or other creatures in the forest that are not like wanting good things from humans or for humans. Everyone believes in the zombies, in creatures, etc. But the main character doesn't believe in them, and she says that her dad keeps telling her, you're only gonna be afraid of stories you believe, or something like that. You're only afraid because you believe those stories. And that was a really cool way to see things, because if you don't believe in things, why would you be afraid of something you don't believe in or you don't understand or whatever? It's inspired by folklore, Caribbean folklore. You had different kind of zombies in the forest, and you know, they're living the lives at blah blah, and one day they're gonna see someone so beautiful in the market, on the market, at the market, and they're gonna be like, but who is she? Because we don't know her. And actually her mom died as well. That's why she lives with her father only. And that beautiful woman is gonna be here and intrigued everyone, etc, etc, and she's actually bad news. So yeah, and what I loved is that that's the type of magic I kind of love, or creatures I kind of love, because apparently zombies can make themselves look like normal, like human, whatever. So you got it, the beautiful woman, blah blah blah. There's no spoilers at this point, but yeah, like they're living among us, and I feel like that could be so real. Like in our world, like every day you could have creatures living with us and you would have no clue about them, you know what I mean? So I love that kind of thing, because it's not only about magic, like very dangerous and beautiful magic that like could destroy the world or whatever. It's just about creatures you don't know, you don't understand, and you don't know exist, living among us. But yeah, whatever. I give it 3 stars because I love the ideas. I really loved that introduction to the zombies. I had no idea about the zombies. It's just the characters, like I felt the character, I don't feel like they had any background, except for the main character. She had some kind of background, but I don't feel I know her. And the same for the others, like I don't know where they came from. Like I know the other characters became friends with her, but I don't know who they are, I don't know what they like, I don't know anything about them, so I feel like I was lacking a lot of descriptions about, like, yes, the characters, but also the world they were living in. So I feel like I didn't have enough information about the world in order to imagine it, in order to actually enjoy it and love it and whatever. Apparently it's a trilogy, so I might pick up the sequel, I don't know. It was okay, but I was missing things about the characters, the world building. I felt some stuff were not that logic. Also, the way it was happening and the pacing didn't actually bother me that much. Or did it? No, I don't think it bothered me that. I just finished it, by the way, like 1 hour ago, so that's why I'm still like a bit not sure on what I think about it. But yeah, that's all I have to say about it for now. I still need a bit of time to think about it. But yeah, well, I think that's it. So let me know what books you've read. If you've read any of the books I've read and you disagree with me or you agree with me, let's talk about it down below. No spoilers, obviously, because not everyone has read all the books in the world. I'm super hyped. I don't know why. I'm sorry, Wolves. I think that's it. So Wolves, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to be a part of the pack. Talk to me in the comment section as usual. And until next time, take care, Wolves.